My name is Adamm Liley, and I am a filmmaker, but also a professor of filmmaking at Fanshawe College. Men's mental health is a big issue these days. Mental health in general to everybody is very important. In the men's world, traditionally we're told not to show weakness or any vulnerability and act like a man. That's the way I was raised. In the last 20 years plus, I've shed all of that. I do a lot of therapy. I do a lot of activity that also helps with my mental health. I talk about my feelings, but I do know a lot of people who don't. And it's really important that we shed that image of trying to be a tough guy or a man. In my life, I've known a few people who have taken their own lives, and that's the main reason why I think mental health is really important. We need to know that there's resources out there. People will talk to you, they will help you, Therapy is great. Telling your friend is great. Telling your partner is great. Sharing your feelings. I think men's mental health these days is getting a lot more attention. There's still a huge percent of the population that don't share their feelings, that are too proud to share their feelings, to seek help, to speak to a therapist or a close friend or a family member. It needs to continue to grow. I personally have also experienced dark times. It's amazing how those thoughts and feelings can seep in and grow, and it's very unhealthy. It needs to be a big approach. It needs to be somebody who's a professional. It needs to be a family member, a loved one, friends. You need to work on your own mental health. Having been somebody who's gone through some kind of life struggles or tough times, some dark moments, I see a therapist. I think there's no shame in that. I love going to speak to somebody about my feelings, and you can't handle everything that comes at you all on your own. I do yoga. I play squash, which is a good physical exertion. Getting out in nature, biking, walking. I no longer drink alcohol, I think, which exacerbates when you're in a dark situation. And just having a clearer headspace, I think, has been really beneficial. It's a combination: therapy, physical activity, yoga, cleaner living. I think men's mental health needs to continue to be publicized and brought to light. There are a lot of people out there who will not seek help, who try to, handle their struggles on their own. It's never the best solution. We need to continue to grow the publicity on this. We need to shine the light and share this. We actually had somebody a couple of years ago at our squash club who was like a professional, good-looking guy, great athlete, and he took his own life, and it just shocked all of us. Since then, there's been an annual tournament raising funds, and when something touches you that close in your life, you see the importance of needing to continue to raise awareness. I grew up in a small town. We treat men's mental health way differently now. We're now able to, without any shame or embarrassment, share our feelings, talk about our feelings, seek help. But when I was raised, it wasn't that. That wasn't the way. My dad's generation, it's so old school and so unhealthy, and you weren't allowed to talk about your feelings. Plus, I was raised in a blue-collar family in a small town. There were no resources. There was no awareness. There was no help. It's a great thing that, today we're able to talk about it. We're able to seek help. There's so many different avenues. I think today's generation has a lot more resources available to them, allows them to be more open about their feelings and their mental health, and to seek help and to talk to their parents or their peers, and it's a lot more accepted. What's interesting is when you when you guys asked me to be part of this, like men's mental health, I don't want to talk about just men's mental health. Everyone deserves the same amount of mental health support. Why men's mental health is really important is because typically we've been told we're not supposed to talk about our feelings. We're not supposed to be weak, not supposed to show our emotions or our soft side. Mental health is a huge issue, and it should be the same for women or children as it is for men. We all experience difficulties. I think we all need to have equal access to these. I think women struggle through a lot more than men, I believe, just situationally sometimes. But when it comes to men, we're just told not to talk about it. We're supposed to, be strong and fight through it. When I was 18, I took a year off high school. All of my friends had gone off to university, and I was taking a year off to work and travel, and there was 3 of us. A close friend of mine who was supposed to be traveling with me took his own life. And I remember I had some family struggles at home, and it was like heavy time. Don't know how I actually got through that period. My mom got me lined up with a therapist, John Field. I will always remember him. It was like life-changing. Because I was like 18, raised the whole time in this small town, never been to a therapist office. And I was able to talk to somebody who didn't judge, and it was the most refreshing thing I had ever felt. The first time you ever kind of really deal with death, and it's a close friend of yours, and he took his own life, and there's so many questions, and then things at home were really tough. Therapy saved me 100%. I went off to university and college and started my career, living in Halifax, moved back here, started a family, and life happens. And so it would have been like 30 years later, a mountain of more life struggles. And I looked up John Field and I found him, and he was still doing his therapy. I have seen him about 25 times since, and he remembered me, and it was so amazing. I'm a huge proponent for talking to a professional. You can't take on all of what happens in life on your own. For sure, at work, there's a lot of resources for us. There's many different avenues for counseling and therapy, and there's a lot of support here at the college. This is happening more and more at the college as a professor. Students coming to talk to you. And it's stuff that goes beyond the classroom. And they start to talk about their personal life and the struggles they're having. And I can really empathize with that stuff. I know the avenues to take them to counselors at the college, and I've got a lot of time for that. That's one thing that I actually increasingly see happening is students are able to open up a lot more about their personal feelings and problems and struggles they're having. You have to take it seriously. And I'm not a professional. I can talk and share my own personal experiences, but there's a number of places that students can seek help here at the college. I used to kind of have an attitude like, oh, you couldn't write that exam because you had a panic attack. And then I actually had my first anxiety attack. I had never experienced one. I was like pretty rock solid mental health wise. I was like, what is happening? And so I have a lot more empathy because I understand it better. I shouldn't have to have those experiences personally in order to understand somebody else's situation, but I get it. For the most part, you can coast through every day, but then things start to get thrown at you, and then something bigger might happen, or tragic, and when you have kids and you have a partner and you've got financial things, like there's a lot of things get added to the pile of life. When things get a little too heavy, you need to seek help. We can't do this all on our own, and there's no shame in it. Yeah, so.